love this thing. What is your dream gun? For me, one of mine has always been the MP5K. A subgun, the subgun, not a PCC, but a subgun. And now my MP5K does actual subgun things, but totally legally. This is the Liber V2 lower from L2 Prince with the super safety in it, and it does MP5 things. And this is a dream gun of mine, and it's amazing. Oh my Lord. So, an MP5 has always been a dream gun of mine, especially one with full MP5 capabilities. Which this one now has. To get an actual transferable HK MP5 that has the true go fast mode, you're talking about tens of thousands of dollars. 60, 70, 80, over 100 grand, depending, you know, which lower you get. This costs a lot less than that. This is a MAC-5K from Military Armament Corporation. It is a Turkish MP5K clone, and one that so far, until I put the super safety in it, has been 100% reliable. We will talk about the few malfunctions we had running it with the super safety, because I do believe that I can negate those in the future just by following some directions that I haven't quite followed. But I was too excited to get this out and run it, and so I ran it the way I had it. But see, for a lot less than 60 grand, you can get a MAC-5K or any MP5K clone, including the HKSP5K if you want. Although, that one is like 3 grand. You know, $200 for a tax stamp to make it an SBR, $200 for a tax stamp to make it suppressed, a bunch of money for a suppressor, an Aimpoint. Okay, so we're at a few $1,000 here, but you know what? Still a hell of a lot less than a transferable, and it does the same thing. This is freaking sweet. This is a dream gun to me that honestly, when I first got into guns, I never thought I'd be able to have something like this. And man, shooting it puts a smile on anyone's face. In fact, my training group that I go up and do pistol training with every week, let a couple of the guys shoot this. When I first brought it up there, I hadn't even ran it yet. I put like 2 mags through it to test which kind of ammo it would work with. 115s and 147s, it ran them both great. Let some of the other guys run it, and it put a smile on everyone's face. There is nothing better than a rapid fire MP5. With the roller delayed blowback, the recoil is like nothing. It is so controllable. Now, I've also got a super safety in the Mark 18 and this 11.5 inch here, and they're fantastic. But I did have to work on getting to, you know, control them a little bit. Now, 5.56, not a whole lot of recoil, but roller delayed 9mm, it is a sublime shooting experience. Now, why did I go with the Liber V2 lower instead of something different like AS Designs or the Lee Sporting lower or something like that? Well, because I want it to still look like an MP5, and this lower does. And in fact, when we look at it up close, I'll show you this compared to the stock lower that came on this gun. There is a reason why I went with the SEF lower. You can also get the Navy Pictogram lower from L2 Prince. In fact, they've got like 5 or 6 different MP5 lowers you could choose from, which is one of the big reasons that I think it's worth going through those guys, because one of my favorite things about the MP5 is not only the way it functions, but the way it looks. And I wanted to maintain that classic MP5 aesthetic, and with the Liber V2 lower, you can do that. This video is sponsored by Venice AI. If you're not on the AI train yet, you are missing out. And you know what? I was one of those people missing out for a very long time. I'm always kind of a late adapter to these things, but AI is honestly amazing. The stuff that you can do with it is absolutely incredible. It's a very powerful tool for just about anything in your life. I keep finding more and more amazing things you can do with it. The thing is, though, is that things like ChatGPT and stuff like that, they're actually stealing your information and they're selling it. The former director of the NSA is on the board of ChatGPT. That's not a good thing. You know, Google and stuff like that, you know, Facebook, whatever, they listen to you and they advertise to you based on what you say. Well, what else are these things doing with your information? They're selling it to third parties, including governments. You don't, especially if you're a two-way person, you don't really want the government listening in on your conversation. So that's where Venice AI comes in. They're a full AI platform, but they are private and permissionless, meaning that they don't sell any of your information to anybody else. It's totally private. You get all of the benefits of AI without those downsides. So you might as well try it out. Now, if you use my link, that's venice.ai/sawtooth-tactical, you can get 20% off on your Pro plan. The Pro plan is the way to go. There's just a ton more that you can do with it. You can use all the tools that AI has to offer. And I mean, by now, AI can do so much for your productivity, for your organization, your creativity. Just check it out. It's amazing what you can do. Again, 20% off with code sawtooth-tactical at venice.ai/sawtooth-tactical. So check this thing out. The way to put a super safety in an MP5 is you have to run a lower that'll take an AR fire control group. So this is an AR-15 trigger group. And that's how you're able to run a super safety. But some of the AR fire control group lowers don't look like an MP5 lower, and that bothers me. If you look at this and you look at that, they are pretty dang similar. Now obviously this one has a standard safety lever, but with an MP5, that safety lever is hard to reach with your thumb anyway. This is actually easier to get to. So unlike an AR where you lose the safety that you like, on this one I actually have a safety that I like better now. Now the only real difference is that you see the trigger is moved up a little higher on the gun there. And that is just because of the way that an AR fire control group works. For the hammer to be able to hit the firing pin in the MP5, it just has to be a little bit higher up than it is in a regular HK style lower. Now, I went with the SEF lower. Again, like I said, they do have a bunch of them you could choose from. But you notice SEF, EFS. Why is it in the wrong order? Well, because of the order that your actual super safety works in. So on an MP5, S is safe. E is the German word for semi-auto, and F, which I can't click to on this, is the German word for full auto. Well, on the super safety, it doesn't go in that same order. So when you have it clicked all the way this way, it is in safe, which would be the S. Click it all the way over, and that would be F. And then all the way over would be E, which is semi-auto. So E, middle is F, and that is your super safe mode. Back this way is S. That's why those are in that order. It actually corresponds to the positions of the super safety. Now, if you guys don't know how a super safety works, it is not full auto. I've gone over this in many super safety videos, but just for YouTube and everyone else's sake, this is legally semi-auto. And the reason why is because you pull the trigger, when the bolt cycles here, it pushes the trigger out each time. Each time the trigger resets and has to be pulled again for every shot. It's just because it forces the trigger to reset, if you keep constant pressure to the rear, you will be able to pull that trigger as fast as the gun will cycle. So it might look like full auto, but it is not. Because the definition for full auto is multiple rounds per single function of the trigger. With this, you really do have to function the trigger for every round fired. It just allows you to do it very, very quickly. And I think that this is the way to go. Now, I know that the Lee Sporting lowers work great. I know, some of the other designs work fantastic. But this one looks like an MP5, And that was important to me. As you can see, took off the Ear Pro. I've got some 147 grain flat nose subs, which should be hearing safe with this big ass suppressor. Let's see if it'll run them. Well, we won't go into the steel on this one, just so you guys can hear it. I wondered about that. Yeah, it worked pretty dang well. If you're into guns at all, you should own your dream gun. Or some of your dream guns, you know? I've got a few dream guns. At times, the AK was a dream gun of mine. I've got an AK. The MP5, excuse me, but the Mark 18 has always been a dream gun of mine. I've got a Mark 18. I've got an MP5K. I've got comped 2011s. I've got a lot of my dream guns at this point. And it's really, really exciting. And honestly, I got to thank you guys for it. If it wasn't for this YouTube channel, I wouldn't have a lot of this stuff. So let's go over this build real quick because I'm going to prove why that is true. For one, L2 Prints did send me this Liber V2 Super Safety Lower. And I need to thank them for that. I really appreciate it. I was really looking forward to it. In fact, I can't remember the last time I was so excited about something coming to the channel. Also, the suppressor here. This is from Resilient Suppressors. This is their Ramblin' Man. And Resilient Suppressors did also send me the suppressor. Everything else here I paid for myself. The MP5K, the Aimpoint, the KES retractable stock, which I freaking love. This thing just comes out that quick. And this thing can get extremely compact, which is kind of the whole point of the K. So if I take the suppressor off and retract the stock there, I mean, this is a tiny little gun, which is really cool. That's kind of the whole point of the MP5K. But also, because it is so short and compact, I don't really mind running a long suppressor on it because it makes it nice and quiet. And this thing runs great with 147 grain flat nose subsonic 9mm. You don't even need Ear Pro, even when running it in super safe mode, and that is awesome. So let's talk about the experience of shooting this as a super safe now MP5K clone. I did have some malfunctions, but again, it's because, like I said, I didn't quite follow directions. Now, the MP5K does have what is called a denial block in it. And that doesn't allow you to install all of the components of a super safety lower without a little bit of work. Really, it just came down to a little bit of filing, and it was pretty dang easy. That part, no big deal. But they do tell you, so like ARs, you tune them with buffer springs and buffer weights. Well, with MP5s, you tune them with different locking pieces. Now, if you run your MP5 suppressed, you're supposed to use a different locking piece. And L2 Prints sent me some directions, which I thought was very cool. This is the first super safety I've gotten where they actually sent some directions with it, which is really nice. But they do talk about, you know, how to set it up, all these different things. And one of the things they talk about is which locking piece to use for which kind of ammo, whether you're running 115 grain, 124s, or 147s. Well, I haven't done any of that. I've been using the same locking piece that came in this MP5K. And for the most part, it's worked really, really well. Until I put the super safety lower on it, this thing hadn't had a malfunction. Running it at an extremely high rate of fire with a big long suppressor on it, I was kind of asking for it without switching out the locking piece. And so this week I will be going on HK Parts and buying a few different locking pieces. They're not very expensive, and that's what you do with an MP5, and so I'm going to do that. Now that I have this, I do want to make it run perfectly, but to be quite honest, it does run pretty dang well. So I've been running mostly 115 grain today. They specifically said not to use Blazer ammo for some reason. These are Blazer, but they are 124 grain. So I want to see if it'll run. It is super controllable. Seems like it runs Blazer just fine. With the 147 grain, I don't think I had any malfunctions at all. Ran perfectly. The first 2 mags through it, before I knew if it would even work at all. Loaded up a mag of 115s, did the HK slap, and dumped the whole mag. No issue. Then I loaded up 147s, did the same thing, no issue, and I was off to the races. I was psyched. Then I went out there to go film to make this video, and yes, I had a couple times where I kind of had some like weird stovepipes with spent casings stuck in here that I had to, you know, strip the mag and kind of get them out. One time I actually had to dig one out with a knife. But I do believe that is for a couple reasons. For one, I have a couple of these Mac mags, and I have found that they are not the best MP5 mags. I only think I had malfunctions, if I remember right, with the Mac mags. And then I've got one other one that is a higher quality mag. I cannot remember the brand for the life of me right now, but it ran great. So, and that's one of the things that they say here is to use HK mags. And they specifically say don't use Blazer brand ammo. Well, I did run Blazer 124 grain through it, and it actually ran great. Just because that's the 124s I had, and I wanted to try it with 115s, 124s, and 147s to see what worked best. Now, I did have the most issues with 115s, but again, I haven't changed out any locking pieces or anything in this. So there will be an update to this video eventually. I'm going to get different locking pieces. I'm going to test which ones go with what grain of ammo and for running suppressed and all of that. And we're going to see if we can't get this thing to just be as reliable, well, as the Mark 18 is. That thing hasn't had a single malfunction, even with the super safety. Now, what I didn't think to try the other day was to try it in semi-auto. I just didn't. I don't know why. I was really excited to run it in super safe. Now, function-wise, it works perfectly. Reset, trigger breaks. Not a big deal. And by the way, putting an AR trigger in here, and this is just a mil-spec trigger, hell of a lot better than an MP5 trigger. So even if you're not going to run a super safety, you get a lot better trigger. In fact, you could put a Geisley trigger in here if you want. You could put a Geisley trigger with a super safety in here if you want. That is the cool thing about these AR Fire Control Group lowers. You can have an MP5 with a Geisley trigger and that third go fast mode. Pretty freaking cool. But again, let's just prove to anyone, oh, that is the one thing about an MP5, man, especially K, you can pinch your thumb right there real easily. That hurt. But put it in the middle or third position here. You pull the trigger. Every time I did that and pulled the bolt back, it pushed my finger forward and I had to pull the trigger again. And that's what makes it legal. And that's what makes it so that you can own it without an SOT or without paying transferable MP5 prices. Back to, I've got like 12 rounds left of the 147 grain flat nose Federal Subsonic. We'll see how these do. But I've been very, very impressed with this thing. We've had a couple malfunctions. That's to be expected first time out. I'm sure it could use some tuning. Different, locking pieces I'm going to look into. But this is the dream gun for sure. I love this thing. So this literally is, I keep saying this, the dream gun. I mean, what gun owner doesn't want an MP5 that does actual MP5 things? Now, as we can see with this, it doesn't have your traditional selector, but that's totally fine for what you get from this. So it has an SEF lower, but they're in a different, normally it says SEF, not EFS. That's because safe, semi, and the super safe position is in the middle. And if we watch this, it is semi-auto. When I pull the trigger, each time the bolt cycles, it pushes my finger forward and I do have to pull the trigger for each subsequent shot. It just allows me to do it as fast as the gun will cycle. Now, I did talk about those few malfunctions, but for the most part, I think I ran, I don't know, at least 200 rounds through it. I kind of stopped counting, kept just loading up mags because I was having a hell of a fun time. But for the most part, it ran perfectly, no matter what kind of ammo I put in it. Like I said, I had a couple of like stovepipes, but really it mostly just ran. Like pull the trigger and dump mags, no problem. And that is very cool, especially again with 9mm. Now, not only the fact that the roller delayed MP5 system has like no recoil and is extremely controllable, but also 9mm is a lot cheaper than 5.56. And so I think for a super safety platform, this makes a lot more sense than, well, this does. Just because when you're just dumping ammo like that, it's a lot more affordable. Like I said, I put a few hundred rounds through it yesterday. A few hundred rounds of 9mm is a regular, range day for me going and training with pistols, which I also did that earlier in the day. So it was like double this week. I probably went through 500 rounds of 9mm yesterday between this and the regular pistol training that I do. But if I'd gone through the same amount with 5.56, it would have cost a few $100. And, it just feels better to shoot 9mm fast like that. You don't have to worry about what it's costing you. And for two, that's just the way an MP5 is supposed to be. I started this video saying that this is a dream gun of mine, and it is. This is the coolest thing ever. Like, it really is. I am so excited about this. I don't know if you guys can tell, but I'm going to get those different locking pieces. I'm going to work on tuning this thing perfectly, but honestly, it runs pretty dang good already without changing anything internally in this MP5K. We'll see what I can do to make sure that it has no issues, and we'll do an update video. But for now, I am pretty dang impressed with this whole setup. So again, I do want to thank L2 Prints for sending out the MP5K Libre V2 lower here with the super safety. They sent out the whole system. Trigger, super safety, everything already installed, plus the MP5 slip trip that goes in here. You need that because an MP5 bolt is not the same shape as an AR-15 bolt. You need something to activate the lever on that super safety. But you could do it all in a package from them, or you can order just pieces. And if you look closely at it, I know we looked up close already, but the quality is incredible. Like L2 Prints, that leads me to believe that it is 3D printed, right? Well, I can't tell a difference between this and something non-3D printed. The print quality is flawless. It feels extremely high quality. And that I'm really impressed with. I didn't really know what to expect, but man, I am happy with the product. Anyway, if you guys enjoyed this video, please give me a like. Let me know what your dream gun is down below. Let me know if you have an MP5 or an MP5K with a super safety setup, and what locking piece you are using for what kind of grains of ammo, and if you're running it suppressed or not. Help me out there, and help out the rest of the viewers as well, because these things are pretty popular these days, and we want people to be successful with them and have as much fun as they possibly can. Again, if you enjoyed this video, please give me a like, make sure you subscribed, and from Sawtooth Tactical, stay strapped or get clapped.